That drug has hijacked everything about them.
In the shadows of the opioid epidemic,
we are seeing increases of methamphetamines.
Meth is making a comeback.
It's been years since Indiana was named the meth capital of the U.S., and now
we're seeing a huge increase.
Police departments all over Michiana say they're once again struggling to tame this dangerous drug.
I've never seen it in 37 years of law enforcement experience.
In this special Addicted America on Meth's Resurgence, we'll introduce you to former addicts.
Very first hit was all it took. I fell in love.
First responders.
Unfortunately, there's not a lot we can do.
And specialists.
It has to be a universal kind of solution.
All working to end the cycle. Thanks for joining us on ABC 57 News at 6. I'm Brianne Pomerini.
And I'm Brian Coneybear. 1 year ago, we introduced you to the Addicted America special series on the opioid crisis. But now meth is making a major comeback.
Yeah, in 2013 alone, Indiana State Police busted 1,808 methamphetamine labs.
Just 4 years later, the number dwindled. But that doesn't mean people are giving up their high. Let's break down the specific numbers for you. In 2014, ISP reported more than 60 meth labs in Elkhart County, 58 in Kosciuszko, around 30 for St. Joe, Fulton, Marshall, and Stark counties, and less than 14 in each of the rest of Michiana's Indiana counties. Over the next few years, the numbers decreased dramatically, and in 2017, the latest data available, many Michiana counties only saw single-digit meth seizures. And new statistics show meth is being imported now. It's not homemade like it used to be.
And that's because where there were a lot of violent explosions when users were making it themselves, the government had a crackdown. It appears meth imported from Mexico is the new trend. The DEA says drug cartels there are producing hundreds of rounds daily in hidden super labs. It's now purer, much cheaper. 5 years ago, the street price for meth was about $1,000 per ounce. The number now slashed down to $250 an ounce, and the amount of meth here is putting stress on Michiana's resources. And the switch to Mexican meth is apparent when you look at the arrests.
After a major decline, the number of meth arrests is once again increasing in most of our local counties.
ABC 57's Haley Fixler joining us in the studio now with a look at those numbers. Haley.
Well, staggering statistics, Brianne, right here in Michiana. Take a look at this map. Starting in 2016 for opiate arrests, all double digits. Now, so far in 2018, about the same numbers. Looking at meth arrests in 2016, Fulton County, Marshall, Kosciuszko County, triple-digit arrests. It's already worse so far this year. And with that growing number of arrests, it's just part of the problem.
Get your seatbelt on. He sees us coming. This is one of the main east-west corridors for drug trafficking across the country. It's very simple to go from Chicago to Cleveland and continue east, back and forth, which runs right through South Bend to Elkhart.
The Indiana Toll Road, a popular route for drug mules. In Michiana, state police say it's being used to transport heroin, marijuana, and now meth.
Like looking for a needle in a haystack.
I was along for the ride as Special Trooper Brian Hoffman searched for some signs.
There are thousands of vehicles traveling across this road every day, and only a very small percentage may have a load of drugs in them.
All this sounds very suspicious to me. You have anything in your trunk?
This vehicle we have stopped has a lot of red flags of potential drug courier. Their stories doesn't match. It's not very good.
Every traffic stop can make the difference on how much meth gets into Michiana.
What's this here for? Oh, you smell this. Yeah, I figured it's for the smell. Usually you see that for the smell if there's narcotics in the vehicle, though.
Did you notice the air freshener in the trunk? Do you have an air freshener in your trunk?
No drugs were found in this stop. State troopers are only one line of defense against the destruction of drugs. Meth has become an intoxicating import.
We seize illegal narcotics quite frequently. These narcotics are originating mostly from Mexico, and we are seeing increases of methamphetamines and opioids that are coming across the southwest border. They seized over 1,560 pounds of methamphetamines.
And that's just 1 year so far. It's the highest number of any border checkpoint. The El Centro sector in California is a hot spot for smugglers. I FaceTimed with the supervisory border agent, Joyce Golosino.
Have a lot of money and power, and so they utilize their resources both in Mexico and the United States to avoid detection and try to make their illegals make their final destination.
One of those final destinations is right here in Michiana. Despite hard work, dealers are still getting meth past detection. It's making its way 2,061 miles to the South Bend area. I'm told it's even more potent than the homemade stuff.
She said it is so much harder to get off of this meth than it was the meth that we were all making back then.
Dawn Brenneker's friend is one of the many who are no longer sober or safe, but she is one of the ones who successfully fought her addiction.
The very first hit was all it took. I fell in love. I thought it was like the wonder drug. It was what I had been looking for.
The love of the high, a way to escape from a reality that she says was more of a nightmare. For the Argus mom of 4, life was a lot different not too long ago.
Around Christmas of 2010, I got arrested for the first time for a meth charge. Before I got from Plymouth to Argus, there was somebody waiting there with dope for me. I got high right away, and I was just off and running again.
Her addiction seemed to have no end in sight until Dawn was confronted with a blast of reality. Someone was making a one-pot meth lab just inches away from her.
I seen he had the bottle and it had a fireball in it. Threw the bottle at me. As soon as it touched my fingertips, it exploded, covered me in flames.
She took me back to where it all happened.
Ended up blowing out like 8 windows in the house, put a great big crack in the ceiling.
And that's what shattered her own glass ceiling.
And I looked down and seen my skin peeled back and hanging off my fingers.
So now, nearly 8 years later, that day is burned forever in her brain and etched on her skin.
I have the physical reminders. I look in the mirror every day and I see my burns.
The downsides, I think, that we have seen with people getting off of opiates is it is a possibility to alternate that substance out. So you can, at times, see somebody switch to methamphetamine.
A switch that's just as sinister. Brooke Marshall, an addiction therapist at Oaklawn and a therapist with the St. Joseph County Jail Program, sees it all.
The methamphetamine kind of offsets the heroin. It'll keep you awake. And the heroin will offset the methamphetamine. It's become cheaper to get. Where maybe it might have been like $100 previously is like $20 now.
Cheaper with an equal set of conniving claws. All of this posing an even bigger problem that fuels the fixation.
Do you see an end to this addiction cycle?
I want to say yes. I would love to see the overdoses decrease. I would love to see more long-term options for people who need the help.
I'm told these resources are ultimately the only thing that's going to put a stop to the cycle of addiction. So that's what we're going to break it down and take a look at tonight at 11, what the people on the front lines thinks need to happen to stomp out meth in Michiana.
Thanks, Haley. And many of these meth issues from years past have dropped off in Indiana, but new numbers from Wallet Hub say our neighbors to the north are also struggling. Stats looked at overdose rates, opioid prescriptions, and meth lab incidents. In findings it published in May of this year, Michigan ranked number 4 worst overall for drug problems, while Indiana came in at 7th.
So what's causing drug users to shift from opioids back to meth? Some of them are definitely doing that. One of the reasons, though, is how local and state governments are cracking down on prescription pills. Indiana lawmakers passed new regulations restricting the amount of pills in circulation and creating harsher penalties for people found with those highly addictive painkillers that often lead them to use heroin later. There are also now more drug treatment centers to get opioid addicts clean and hopefully stay clean. This year, Indiana passed a new law, in fact, to create 9 new treatment facilities across the state to make sure no Hoosier will have to drive more than an hour to get to a certified drug treatment center.
Well, another sign of the shift from opioids to meth is how treatment centers are getting addicts clean. A monthly injection called Vivitrol is used with opioid addicts.
It's an opiate blocker, so it's actually biologically impossible to get high on heroin or any opiate while you're on Vivitrol.
Block the receptors opioids use in the body so people can't get high anymore, and it's actually being used in the St. Joe County Jail.
In our county jail, when they've been there for a while, we will give them Vivitrol 24 hours within 24 hours of release because they've had that clean time to give them the best chance of sobriety when they get out.
The injection doesn't replace opioids with another addictive drug, and it can really only help an addict if used in conjunction with therapy or other support because Vivitrol blocks that high addicts will go for anything available, and right now that means more of them are opting towards cheap and pure meth. At this point, there's no known cure for meth addiction, but doctors are hoping to study the combination of Vivitrol with a certain antidepressant to help keep addicts from relapsing.
And the federal government cracked down hard on meth in the past when it was running rampant, but now it seems like it's up to one agency to clean up what's left of this mess. In 2006, that is, Congress passed the Combat Methamphetamine Epidemic Act, which regulated the sale of certain over-the-counter cold medications like Sudafed that are used to make homemade meth. Now, during this new era, it's up to Border Patrol agents to try and stop the flow from Mexico. But they tell us there's only so much they can do. In fact, from 2012 to 2017, the amount of meth known to be coming from the South increased by about 4%. It is rising.
And one thing that is clear, addicts need help getting and staying sober.
I don't think there's enough resources out there for people to be able to find the help that they need.
Addiction is addiction, no matter the drug, and in South Bend there are a few different treatment options if you need help getting off meth. Choices Recovery, the Upper Floor for Men, and Life Treatment Centers of South Bend are just a few. But if you need help, you can call your local hospital and they will be able to refer you to the nearest rehab center.
And watch out for your family members and your neighbors. Here are some of the red flags of meth use to watch out for. Things like hyperactivity, drastic and sudden weight loss. See if their pupils are often dilated or if they're starting to lose their teeth. And if you can tell someone